Buongiorno, PASW clients, staff, and friends. I'm saying that because today is going to be a great, exciting day with a very exciting, hilarious, witty, brilliant Italian composer. We are going to be looking at Rossini today. Gioacchino Rossini, born in 1792. And I've played, you know his music, even if you don't know Rossini's name. It's hard not to listen to his music without a smile, or as my dad would say, without tapping your foot, because there's definitely a beat and rhythm, and we'll talk about that. But it's going to be so fun talking about Rossini today. I'm shot out of a cannon. Why are we talking about Rossini today? So I can give you a fancy Italian composer name? No. We're talking about Rossini because not only did he write some beautiful, amazing, fun music, but because he wrote 39 operas, and he became one of the most famous composers of his time, and that's why people still know his name, and his concerts and operas are performed all the time. He's the man behind The Barber of Seville and William Tell, pieces we're going to be listening to and talking about. So, and he wrote these 39 operas within 10 years. Unbelievable. I mean, I don't... Well, I know I couldn't do that. I would have done it if I could have. And his first and last one was the famous William Tell overture, which failed, actually. But like I said, we'll get into that. So think of that, 39 operas in 10 years, and we'll talk about why he decided to stop writing music and what he decided to go into instead of music. So today's class will be on the great Rossini. So let's talk about Rossini's early life. He came from a musical family. His mother was an opera singer, so that helps, and his father was a French horn player. And by age 13, Rossini could sing and play well enough to join the musical family that his parents worked for. And he did get training, though, and he studied in Bologna. Bologna is what I'm having for lunch today. That's why it slipped out. But he enrolled in the music conservatory at the age of 14. So he learned violin, the horn, harpsichord. He learned all these instruments, were pretty proficient at them, and started appearing in public and the theater, and started making money being a performer, a musical performer, when he was pretty young. So, and his first piece was written when he was 16. So precocious little kid. And he also composed a series of operas that came to really create this genre of Italian opera style, meaning that it was we call them comic operas pretty much right now. It's opera buffa, not buffum, buffa, which means comic opera, and that's his genre of opera writing. So just like films, comedy films, serious films, right? So they didn't have films back then, so obviously it's funny operas, serious operas. Verdi and Puccini, romantic, serious operas. Rossini, brilliant, light. Although he did try to get into the serious stuff, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. So some of this knowledge my father told me a lot about, so he already knows this, and I confirmed that these were stories that were really true of Rossini. He had a great wit, and he loved entertaining people and throwing parties all the time, and especially eating. He loved food, and he loved coffee and pastries. And he linked coffee and operas, noting that the effect of the caffeine on the body diminished quickly. He said, coffee is a matter of 15 or 20 days, luckily enough time to write an opera. So if we're talking about that he could write an opera that quickly, and he did, his most famous one, then we're talking about, obviously, a genius. Probably his most famous opera was written when he was 23 years old, and that's The Barber of Seville. And he wrote this in less than 3 weeks. He worked on this masterpiece in his bedroom, wearing his gown in bed, and but it failed when it came out. People were hissing, they were laughing, a guitar string broke, supposedly a cat walked on stage. It was not really well received. And the overture that you just heard is not really, it doesn't have anything to do with the rest of the opera, and that makes sense because he said that overture wasn't really supposed to be for that opera. It was going to be another piece or written for something else, so I don't know. Regardless, it's one of the best, most famous overtures ever, and one of the most fun. And I bet some of you were tapping your feet while listening to it without even knowing. So musically, what's so great? Okay, rhythmically, his rhythmic brilliance of tapping the feet, right? But also his melodies are so fresh, right? And inventive and witty. And it's almost like you can hear the composer, his personality come through the music. You can hear it's just witty and charming. And it's not snobbish in a way. It's conversational, but it's that witty bantering of that's hard to put into words, obviously, because it's music. And also this profound attention to orchestration and harmony. It was astounding what he was doing with opera. And getting back to his wit, commenting about prima donnas, he said how wonderful opera would be if there were no singers. So something like that is one of his jokes. And he also mentioned that give me a shopping list and I can write an opera based on that. So talent just came out of his pores. His musical influence was Mozart. That was his biggest one. He said, I take Beethoven twice a week, Haydn 4 times a week, but Mozart every day. Sort of like his medications. And he met Beethoven, and we talked about Beethoven last week, and Beethoven said, you're the composer of Barber of Seville. He said, never try to write anything else but comic opera. Any other style would do violence to your nature. So Beethoven saw his true gift, his voice of stay with what you're good at, right? And don't try to get serious, but like we always tell you guys, to know your strengths and know how you can challenge yourself, but also know what your real strength is and craft that. And I think that was brilliant advice from Beethoven. So, but by the time Rossini's 37, he's done. He's done with opera. Not done with life yet, but he retires. I mean, if you've done 39, I think he should have done 40 though, right? Don't you think? I just kind of thought of that. But he was retired, and he went into kind of a depression and insomnia, and depression was not talked about back then. I mean, you really had to keep that secret, because they would just put you in a crazy house and it would be terrible. And he became obese and really kind of suicidal. Even though his music is so funny and charming, he did suffer from depression. Like we talk about with most artists, many artists, that it's this pressure to entertain and be brilliant. And that pressure sometimes becomes too much to keep up, even though many times it's pressure the artist puts on himself. So, not to get too philosophical, but he started after William Tell kind of bombed. He wanted to go into more serious opera, and like Beethoven said, don't do that. And I think he just kind of retired, and he really wanted to spend the rest of his life cooking and eating food. That's what really gave him a lot of pleasure. So he lived until he was 76, which is probably really old back then. Had rectal cancer, though, and was buried in Paris in 1868. So, but what a genius. What a hilarious composer. Isn't it funny? We've talked about this in class, that how can there be humor in music when there's no words or message or funny or something, or a message that's, you know, that's kind of funny? What makes us smile? And I don't know. We'll never know that. It's just these questions that we ask ourselves that, and also what makes us tap the foot, you know, tap a beat? Why do we know these certain things? Nobody ever said, I'm going to play music and you should really tap your foot to it, because that'll make you feel better. I mean, nobody really gave that direction at some point, did they? I mean, unless I missed that class or something, but it's in our blood. We feel it, we hear it, and I hope you enjoyed this class on Rossini, one of my favorite composers. Always puts me in a good mood, and I think Rossini enjoyed life very much. He moved to Paris from Italy and spent most of his time in Paris, and spent a lot of his later part entertaining lavishly and giving musical gatherings and enjoying fine food and pastries and coffee and opera and witty conversation. So what a man, a genius, of musical genius, and a man of that would probably be very entertaining to have dinner with if he were here today, so we could talk to him. So hope you enjoyed Rossini. See you guys tomorrow. Have a great rest of the day.